60 seconds to comply.
I think you'd better do what he says, Mr. Kenny.
You have 60 seconds to comply. This is minute 29.
Part man.
Part machine. All pod. This minute begins with the OCP staff marching into the police station and ends with the first full shot of RoboCop. Finally.
Now let's get this correct. The actual first line of this is asshole, because it's cut off from the previous minutes.
Oh, all right.
The script does say, shut up, asshole.
Yeah.
I love Reed. Oh, sorry, we have a guest still. Duncan,
yes.
please introduce
Hello
yourself.
there. Yes, I joined you in minute 28, and I am happy to be here for 29
General
minutes.
Kenobi.
Duncan Shields, a huge fan of this film, saw it in the theaters when it came out, because I am 500 years old, and it was a very enjoyable experience.
Don't worry, I'm only about 400. I'm technically 4,200 years old.
There you
I
go.
guess.
What was the War of the Roses like?
It's quite wonderful. I remember it rained for a little bit in the middle, and then that's about all I remember.
That was a great Michael Douglas, Catherine Turner, and Danny DeVito vehicle.
Wonderful movie. Fantastic film.
I do like that film, actually.
Yeah, it was a good movie. But here we go. RoboCop has entered the building, as they say.
Literally, yes.
And what I love about how they frame this introduction is that it's from this outside perspective, as if you're someone who works in this place, and suddenly all these people are marching in, they're carrying all this scientific-looking stuff, and it's so much more immersive than, well, the way the remake did it, but also in any other way you could have introduced it, I think.
I like that OCP didn't even bother to inform them that this was
that's what I
happening.
love. I love that the scientists, this whole crew marches in through the front door, so they like bypass the front desk to get to the back. And it kind of it reminds me of having the ability to go anywhere as long as you have a clipboard and a safety vest and a hard hat.
Yes.
Right? You can just doop-de-doo through high security areas or concerts or whatever. And I think there was actually a YouTube channel of a guy seeing how many places he could go with just like confidence, calmness, and a worker's uniform.
I've heard of this. Yeah.
I think he got in trouble when he stopped. I think he got somewhere like high clearance and was like, I'm in trouble.
Oh shit.
like Ralph Wiggum, you know, like I'm in danger, you know, like so.
Maybe Rick brought that up in the previous minute, but yeah, it is astounding how much, you know, if you have authority, or you project authority, people will actually respect it. But Bob Morton in just big on, dick swinging, and I'm just coming in here and I don't give a shit.
Yeah,
I love that.
And we get Dr. what's her face again?
I got Roosevelt and Tyler.
Tyler's like, bring him in through the side door. So and she's got her hair tied back now. She's not all loosey goosey like at the New Year's party. And she's got her huge. I don't know if did you guys get Sally Jesse Raphael over there? There was a daytime talk show
for a while.
Yeah, so she's got her quintessential Sally Jesse Raphael giant 80s eyewear on, right? And
that's a name I haven't heard in a few years.
They are bigger than Alan Bradley's glasses.
Yes, these Alan Bradley glasses.
From Tron, yeah.
And Morton's like, this holding cell on this floor, and we'll set up for observation. And then that's when Desk Sergeant Reed comes up shouting. But Robert Doki, I think it's called. Robert Doki, is that the name? I think that's his actor's name.
Oh, Sergeant, yeah.
He comes up shouting out, what's going on here? What's all this about? And I love how Miguel Ferrer turns back to Johnson to say, who is this guy? Instead of it's like, dude, I'm not a hallucination. I'm not a TV screen. Like, I'm right here. Talk to me. You know.
But his Reed's reaction when he sees RoboCop, his face falls, and he's just like, what is that?
What in the heck?
Before that, you get the great line, "This is OCP business, so please get lost."
Get lost. Yeah.
You imagine if this was like the dark, edgy version, be like, fuck off.
Yeah.
Just get lost.
Maybe they did do that.
There is a look between Johnson and Reed in this particular, and it's almost that thing of like, yep, I know. I have to deal with this myself.
Yeah, for sure. Like, it's just another thing about the two of them is that they both played the same character in the movie Walking Tall.
Oh,
and
wow.
in the first,
Cool.
they both played a character named Obra Eker, And in the first movie, it was played by Felton, and then in the second movie, it was played by Robert Doki. I haven't seen the Walking Tall movies, but they're all based on the life of Sheriff Buford Pusser, I think is his last name, who cleaned up
what a name.
Yeah, unfortunate. But he cleaned up a small crime-ridden town. So, but anyway, it's cool that they both. I wonder if they after that experience knew each other, if they saw each other on this film and were like, "Hey, what's up? Good to see you."
Maybe. I'm trying to find where it is, because I think it's in the. I'm not sure if it's in the novelization or in the script, where there's a bit of he gives them a knowing look kind of thing. And it's kind of lost unless you're really analysing this minutes and if you're just looking at those two actors. But yeah, you can kind of see Johnson's looking at Reed, Reed's looking at Johnson. It's almost that shared thing of, I love that.
Really, because I interpreted that look as just sort of like, buddy, don't, just back off.
Just
stop.
Yeah,
but it's just like, we know, you can't do anything. Because Johnson himself is also kind of he's a stooge. He's not one of the power players. He's the lackey.
Oh, he's got In the Next Minute, he's my favorite character in The Next Minute. I love him.
yes. I'm looking at that right now in the in the script.
I love that. One thing I really like Miguel Ferrer in Twin Peaks. Whenever he showed up, I was always like, "Oh, this guy." Because the thing that I like most about him is that he doesn't look like a bad guy to me, and to some extent, it's the same with Clarence Boddicker. They both have winning smiles, and they don't, to me, have sinister faces. Clarence has glasses and he's bald and he sort of looks like a librarian or something, and Miguel's face, he's got kind of a weak chin, a lot of round shapes, and his hair's thinning. He's not pointy and steely like a villain, and I really like that about this film, because
he's not a Lance Henriksen who he looks like a bad guy. He's actually a very nice man.
He doesn't exude. And so they both, and the same with David Warner for that. It's a really, really charming, nice guy, very nice gentleman, but boy, he's a great villain. But both of them here, they knock it out of the park as these sinister sleazeballs, but you wouldn't take them for that at the first sight, and so I like that.
Well, Verhoeven was deliberately trying to cast against type for things like Boddicker, Dick Jones. He was basically saying, these are guys who are known for being good guys in movies, and I'm going to cast them as bad guys.
Wonderful choice.
That works well with a lot of actors.
I do love when they go against type, because we still hold on to this sort of Victorian idea of almost phrenology, like goodness is shown on the face and evil is also corrupts the appearance. But why
goodness is beautiful, evil is monstrous.
We are still, we're just apes, and we just go, oh, pretty equals good. But I love how David Lynch uses Miguel Ferrer. In terms of, he is still a jerk, but he's right in a lot of those situations. Like he's doing an autopsy on Laura Palmer, and he's like, well, if we wait, then we'll lose valuable evidence, and eventually he loses the argument. But you're like, hang on, no, he's professional here, and he's being correct. But and then later on, he gives this speech where he goes, look, I might be basically an asshole, but I believe in tolerance and understanding and all of this stuff, and he just really lays down his moral philosophies, and it's just I love the way David Lynch is kind of wholesome but surreal. It's a great aesthetic.
It kind of reminds me of Touch of Evil with Orson Welles, where he plays this.
I've not seen that.
Oh my god, it is so good.
Trying to get certain old films here is staggeringly hard, which is annoying, because I would love to go through a lot of Orson Welles.
I'm surprised that he filmed it, because in this movie he's legitimately like 400 pounds and he looks like he's going to die in about 30 seconds, but he's like the main character, and there's a lot of shots of his face. And the thing is that he's a sheriff, or like a lead detective in this small border town, and he frames people left, right, and center, but he's never wrong. Right, like he talks to somebody for 2 minutes and is like, "Oh, this guy's guilty as hell. Well, I'll plant some dynamite in his car, and then we'll arrest him, and then charge him with possession of dynamite, and then we'll throw him in jail." And it's like, you can't do that, man. And like some people, one of the other characters said to him is like, "You're a fantastic detective, but you're a horrible cop." You know, like
it's almost like getting what's his face, the gangster. Oh God, Al Capone. Like getting Al Capone on tax evasion as opposed to all the other criminal shit they know he obviously did.
yeah.
It's like, yeah, it's technically okay.
You got him, I guess. I think you got him. But then, Morton, and then Morton walks off saying, I think we've got 4 or 5 days to set up, and that's when Sergeant Reed, here comes the callback. Here comes the callback. Sergeant Reed is like, hey, this is bullshit. I take my orders from, and he's about to say like a higher source or something, but he's just like the drunk crazy guy did in the last minute. And I love that callback, that shift of status, right?
Do you want me to ruin that for you?
Yes.
No, I'm kidding. So in the script, he says, I take my orders from cops, ... So I'm not sure what you're supposed to say, but in the novelization, and I think, let me just quickly check the original script. Okay, so in the novelization, when the guy says, I take my orders from a higher source, Reed actually says, after shut up arsehole, he says, I am the highest authority here. Okay. But I actually kind of like that they cut that out, because it's like, I think I love the ambiguity you're speaking of, and I've never realized that, and I prefer your version.
Yeah, that was my reading too. Is there some connection between having just had another character use a similar phrase?
Yeah, it's like, well, it's Reed's in this position of authority talking down to somebody who has zero authority. And now he's in a position of no authority talking to somebody with high authority. And he's saying, it's like if you have to tell somebody you're the boss, you're not the boss. You know, like as soon as you start saying, hey, I take my orders from a higher authority. You know, I've got a lot of power. I'm in charge here. Then it's like, no, you're not anymore. You're not. You know,
I like that. I do. It's almost like this was crafted by an auteur that knows how to really manipulate an audience.
It wasn't an amazing film by accident or something like
that. They just tripped and made a masterpiece.
Oh, 6 Oscars. Oh, I hate it when that happens.
Something that I notice a lot in genre fiction is how especially low fantasy, or I guess you could say low science fiction, so basically otherwise normal world and then something supernatural or unusual happens. And I find how characters react to that can often be, it's an overreaction or it's an underreaction, and sometimes that's done intentionally for comedic purposes, but when it is being played straight, sometimes that can really pull me out of it, going, as if they would be okay with this, or they would freak out that much. And I think in this scene, it's fairly believable, because it's very believable, because these people know what a robot or a cyborg is. So they're just like, what? Here? Now we have what?
I think in the novelization they do, because I think the novelization was mostly based on some of the earlier scripts, and there's a lot more like the cops kind of being a bit more jerkish, like there's like at least ribbing each other a bit, and so like there's a lot more of the like, you're not gonna replace us with this tin can kind of bullshit kind of talk, and like even like the stuff between Morton and Reed feels a little bit dick measury as well. And I kind of like how they've stripped a bit of that down in this movie. Like, it's not about whose ego is getting crushed at this moment. It's kind of about establishing the awe around, and also the fascination around it. Because these are like cops. They're going, "What the fuck's going on?" It's so out of the blue. Pardon the pun.
They're almost stoked, right? They're almost like, what is? Oh my, what? Because they sprint to get a glimpse of this guy. Like they're like, is that a giant robot? Is that whoa? Like,
yes. I think I'd be doing that too.
I'd never noticed it before. It looks like when you come home and you got snacks for your dogs, and they're just jumping over it. Like, oh my god, give it.
Oh boy, food. Yeah.
We can all agree that RoboCop is a snack.
I mean,
But I like this reveal. I like how his footfalls start thudding down the corridor, that perfect sound, and then the whole room goes quiet, and then we see RoboCop walking behind those panes of, is that frosted glass? I think it's frosted glass or scalloped glass, and so we can't 100% make him out yet.
Yeah, we just see like silhouetting.
It's building
and
the
stuff
tension
like
of
that.
the
Building the
excitement.
tension. I heard that the light glinting off his costume
Yes.
kept ruining shots, so they had to end up lighting him like a new car instead of a person, and that's what made it all work.
If it was J.J. Abrams, he would have just filmed it that way and called it a day.
Yeah.
No, the reveal would be all lens flares as the blocking.
Disco ball.
I like that the cops in the room,
Robocop.
like, they are the audience, because we are those cops going, whoa, what the, I want to see, I want to see, I want to see, you know?
It's just such a great choice, and I had never even noticed, and this is why you do movies by minute, but I had never noticed how good this reveal is. And also, I think when they run down the hallway, it might be one of the few handheld shots. So there's obviously a camera running behind
Yeah.
the cops.
Could be Steadicam, but
It looks
yeah.
really, handheld, yeah.
But they do really good panning shots in the next minute. We'll get to that. But what I love about this particular section as well, we're following the cops as they're trying to investigate, pun intended, what's going on. And as we get to it, the Robocop's there, and we get the briefest glimpse of him in like full glory before the gate shuts, blocking us, the audience, and the cops from the full reveal of Robocop in full detail. And my God, I love that. It's so good.
And I like his slow John Wayne walk here, and I wonder if that was always going to be like you've probably done more research on this than I have, but I remember.
Oh, the walk. Yes, there's a lot to say
right?
about that.
Because in the beginning,
he was supposed to move a bit more faster,
like
but
a ninja, right? Like inhumanly quick,
Like a
right?
snake, liquid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the costume did
Was
not
such a
help.
disaster, so he had to work with a mime artist and cut parts out of.
I would have loved to see what he wanted to do, the original movements, because I'm imagining maybe David in Prometheus.
I think what he wanted to do was the remake.
Yeah, like very fast moving, like smooth motions, and it was. So what happened was with the costume, like they shot only once in the full costume as it was produced. Apparently, there's only like one take when it was so hard to move and it was uncomfortable. They only managed to shoot one thing, and then they went away for a weekend. They got Peter Well talks about this.
Yeah, that's the one. I've watched that. Yeah.
And yeah, they basically started cutting away, trying to free up the movements. They worked with like one of the greatest mime acting coaches at the time, and just so they could develop how RoboCop could move. And that's where they started getting that kind of deliberate, smooth motions and the deliberate choices of head tilts, arm movements. And it just creates this nice fluid motion, but it sells as a robot. It does, restrict his speed, but I think
It's because he's like an unstoppable force now. He's like a wall or a mountain. He's not he's not someone you have to fear getting attacked by. It's like, go ahead, empty your clip. It's not going to matter. I'm coming for you.
This is why fast zombies can sometimes not be as scary as slow zombies, because the whole point of a slow zombie is that they're going to get you. It doesn't matter how fast you run.
They'll get
they're
you
going to get you.
Right?
Yeah, I kind of like that sort of, Jason Voorhees, Halloween, Michael Myers kind of look of just walking along, just at a leisurely pace. You're running as fast as you can. You turn around, that motherfucker's still right behind you.
Right? Like you can't sleep.
Somehow.
You got to get ahead of him by at least 8 hours so you can have some sleep. And you better set that alarm because he's not stopping, right?
Or move to a different country, but then Jaws will still follow you around the globe somehow.
He'll walk under the water. One thing, well, it was Rob Bottin or Rob Bottin that did this costume, right?
Yes, I do have a note for that. Yeah, Rob Bottin, and he was also very concerned with. He shared the same concerns with Verhoeven. They talk about this in the commentary, that revealing the suit too quickly would be too cartoonish, and he was afraid that people would laugh at this thing. I think him probably more than Paul. And I think it was such a great thing that these guys were so concerned in how this reveal would be. Because I think they were confident in the suit, but they were not confident in the audience.
Well, you never know, right? Like, and one thing with Rob Bottin is he was just coming off The Howling and The Thing. He like stopped the Howling like 2 weeks before the end of filming to go work on The Thing. So he did like, 20-hour days for like a year and a half, and then he comes over onto RoboCop. So I'm like, dude, and I think it almost killed him. It was like I think he was like 26 or something at the time, so he just had like nothing but energy. But it was like you're gonna damage yourself. You're just grinding metal. You have to slow down. You're just grinding metal. But it reminds me of a story that Will Ferrell tells of filming Elf, where he's dressed up in the elf costume. And he's in the middle of downtown New York, and he's running around going, Santa, Santa, oh, Santa, and stopping legitimate strangers in the street just to like get reactions. But he had this moment of like, is my career over? Like, am I filming one of the worst movies ever made? Is this a turkey? Because I don't know. I'm dressed as a giant elf cavorting around Manhattan, and this could be stupid. Like, this could be unfunny, and this might be it. And so you don't know. And then it turned out to be one of the...
It is a classic.
When they did it with test audiences, there was like, family parents, the 45-year-old parents and 18-year-olds were both like, this movie's great. And they were like, what is happening? That never happens. And so they knew they were onto something then.
It's sometimes weird, like how movies get made, and people sometimes actually a lot of movies they sometimes just don't know how the movie's going to get received, and like sometimes it's a complete surprise.
You best guess it. And I remember I was in a comedy troupe for a while, and it was the same thing where we'd be like just dying laughing over this great material we wrote, and then we'd put it up in front of the audience, and they'd be like, "Yeah, that was pretty good."
Yeah.
And you're like, "What? Really?"
Yeah.
But then sometimes halfway through a comedy sketch, the audience would just, that's the best, that's gold. And we're like, what just happened?
Oh, that happens to me all the time, where I just say weird shit all the time, so I'm used to just the way I talk. I have a very funny way of speaking, I think. And so sometimes I'll just phrase something in a certain way, and people will be crying, laughing, like, what? That's just how I normally phrase it. I don't know.
Yeah. But it's you never know. You do your best, and then you put it out there, and maybe it's a hit and maybe it's not, but you do your best to ensure that it will be, but you can never know for sure until what was it Sun Tzu said in The Art of War? No battle plan survives contact with the enemy.
Yeah.
And I
have that, but I haven't actually read it.
Yeah. Now that guy was hilarious.
But we're at this point now. I think superhero movies are a great example of, we got to slowly work up to the concept of Batman. It's so far-fetched. And then flash forward however many decades, and people are crying over a raccoon that can talk, whose best friend is a fucking tree. Like,
yeah.
But that also says a lot to be of like, the concept of like Guardians of the Galaxy is so out there and absurd. But it helped that the absurdity of some of the other stuff, like a guy who's a literal god with a magic hammer, a guy in a tin can, a dude with a shield.
A guy who can mass shift and his pants stay on.
Yeah, but they're taken seriously enough that, people get invested within the realm and the genre, and then they can do bonkers stuff. And what's really weird about Guardians is that it's so sincere and so heartwarming that you just kind of go, I don't care that there's a raccoon and a talking tree. I'm fucking invested.
Sorry, that's what always bothers me about stuff like Hellboy, where they're like, we have to throw a human on the force.
Yeah. I watched that first movie again. It is so weird, because you're like, why do we need this entry point character? Like, it's just Hellboy.
Yeah, we don't need it. Like, Hellboy's in love with Liz, and that can never be fully realized. You've got your pathos there, you've got your emotional hooks. It doesn't matter that he's a demon and she's a fire spreader. Like, it doesn't matter. We don't need a human character. You can still find your drama through aliens and robots, and I think so anyway.
That guy never turns up in the sequel, does he?
No, he doesn't. He was just generic.
That shows you how useful he was.
Just generic white boy to be audience target. But yeah, that it proves that there's no such thing as a concept too ridiculous. It really is all about how you depict it, and
it's execution.
Also, it helps if there is a cultural, expectation at the time. So superheroes, everyone knows what it's all about. We don't need to do origin stories anymore. So we can throw people into the deep end. Whereas that kind of ties into what we were saying about film language. Watching Citizen Kane now, well, this is all just cliche and generic, and I've seen it a million times. But at the time, that was film language being written for the first time.
Yeah,
that was
groundbreaking
material. Someone has to lay the first foundational steps to create it, and there's hits and misses. Well, the good thing about like people constantly reiterating, not necessarily reiterating the same story, but like reiterating in filmic language, we can find out the stuff that works and the stuff that doesn't.
Sure.
We can develop a language from that.
Yeah.
Spot the person doing visual communication.
Yeah, that reminds me of, there's this video essay by Jesse Tribble on YouTube. It's really good. He compares Daredevil to Mr. Robot, and it really discusses specific versus generic in terms of framing and cinematography and all that, and it's really interesting because we definitely see that here with RoboCop and the remake, that the remake's very professionally done. It looks very slick, but there's nothing interesting being done with the visuals. So, you know, like Ingmar Bergman does very interesting things with faces and how he frames faces, and it's always telling something about the characters. Or you've got Stanley Kubrick, every frame is a painting, and the way these are composed says something about the characters and the plot. RoboCop the remake is just like, well, you know, here's a lab, very white and minimal, because you're used to seeing that, and we're going to do this kind of shot, we're going to do this, because you're used to seeing it.
Yeah.
Have you seen the first episode of Winter Soldier and the Falcon yet? I always get them the wrong way around.
I just call it Sammy and Bucky.
Yeah, the Sam and Buck show.
Yeah.
There's the scene, and I freaking love this scene. It's the scene where Bucky is in the therapist's office. And then it's filmed kind of flat from the bit, but when it starts to get emotional and you start to get this like weird angle on Bucky as he's bullshitting, and
I was actually thinking about this that particular when I watched that episode. I was thinking about these notes and what I was saying about framing. Yeah, and it really shows you like. And the funny thing is that when he finally kind of opens up to the therapist, and then the shot mirrors on her, and then when he closes off, the shot changes back to her to be more of a generic shot. Brilliant visual language. Yeah.
And I'd watched the Snyder cut the night before, and I'm there going, wow, this is bad.
Yeah.
It's so flat and uninspired, and I couldn't help myself but laugh.
Yeah.
I really found the Snyder cut very amusing, because it was just, wow.
One thing I want to talk about in this particular minute.
Sorry, RoboCop.
Sorry, in this particular minute, I want to point out that there are lots of fishermen on the force.
Huh.
We see a mounted trout, hanging on one of the posts in the office in the back beside an officer with the bulletproof vest hanging off him there, like he's just post shift or in the middle of changing. And then when RoboCop comes to a stop and walks into that other corridor, we see another giant mounted trout up above the door.
Huh.
So, I'm trying to remember. This was a location.
Oh, was it?
This was a location, but I'm trying to remember where it was.
No, it was like a hall. It wasn't actually a real police precinct.
Yeah, but I was just wondering how much they just basically cribbed everything, just throw it on the walls. And it wouldn't surprise me if they try to add in those little extra features, like, you know, the cops being something of a familiar force outside of the workflow.
Yeah, I never noticed that before.
But I love that.
They're outdoorsy. They're outdoorsy cops in a urban decay metropolis, so I don't really know where they're going fishing. If they're fishing this out of a Detroit river,
it would have 3 eyes. Yeah, 3-eyed fish.
But the other thing that I want to point out here is that when RoboCop walks down the smoked glass corridor, he stops and he goes through this other door that's being held open for him, but they cut away before he goes through, because in my opinion he is plainly too tall to make it through the door without
I'm looking
smacking his head on it. He looks like he's got at least a couple inches. He'd have to duck for sure. He'd stormtrooper right into the top of that thing.
So I'm scrubbing through the footage, and above the exit sign is the trout and a plaque, and then you scrub back to Sergeant Reed, and behind him is a different trout on a plaque.
Yeah.
Nice. Thank you for bringing that up. I love that detail.
And now there's a couple of wanted posters in the foreground.
Yeah.
Just as he's walking through. One's for Donald Kaufman and one's for Edward Newman, I think. And I was wondering if you got...
sorry, Edward Neumeier is the writer.
That's right. Yeah, it's Edward Neumeier is the writer, but I couldn't find much on Donald Kaufman besides, the fictional twin in the movie adaptation or whatever. I don't know if he was part of the crew or a friend. Usually when there's wanted posters like this, they tag a pal.
Oh, they usually throw up. It's all Easter eggs with cast and crew.
Like, yeah.
Oh yeah, I found it right here. It looks a bit like that Kaufman. What's his face? Andy Kaufman?
Yeah.
Oh, maybe it's
receding hairline, a bit of a crazy hair.
Yeah.
Maybe that's just a gag. It's probably one of the crew.
Yeah.
They just went Kaufman to make the film. Yeah, I can
I've been
see
thinking about, in terms of cinematography, are there always going to be shots that are inevitably just kind of generic, or can you really make every image count? Obviously, Kubrick is probably best known for that. He doesn't do things just accidentally or just because. But how many other directors think that way? Or is it just, put the camera here. It gets the job done.
Budget, just time constraints.
It's kind of a little from column A, a little from column B.
I don't feel like Ridley Scott is very precise. I've reviewed so much Ridley Scott, and I just feel, especially Prometheus, he's not doing anything too interesting with the camera. It's just like,
He used to be.
Yeah.
Right?
So if you've got, say, a second unit on a thing, and the director's just not focusing on like directing the second unit, it's just like, I want this shot and we want this shot, but the director or the DP, the cinematographers, like just letting them take B-roll coverage and stuff like that. Yeah, they're probably not going to be trying to do fanciful stuff unless the second AD or the first AD themselves are kind of have an autistic vision. Did I say autistic?
I thought you were referencing Stanley Kubrick, because that is definitely an autistic vision.
Yeah. Having an autistic vision. Because that does happen. Some people want to be inspiring directors and they just want to create the pretty pictures. A lot of these shots in this movie that weren't shot by Verhoeven are still cinematically really good, because the uncredited DP was wanting to create something really visually interesting, and he worked a lot with the main actors because they had to shoot things when Verhoeven was doing other things because they were that far behind.
Right.
So it's interesting that they got some kind of cohesiveness in this, even though there was two styles kind of going on, which can be really interesting. Do believe Verhoeven did this scene, though.
I maintain that any movie that manages to hit the theaters legible is a miracle.
Yes.
Yes.
Because the amount of people that need to work in tandem and unison to bring it to fruition is astounding, even for like a low-budget indie film.
And then you've got producer notes and studio notes.
Yeah.
This is why, even though I may be critical of people like Zack Snyder, and I do kind of deliberately amp up the hatred, the fact that he managed to create something and get it out there, and it is complete or coherent or whatever, as good or bad as it is, I will still applaud that effort. Yeah. Even the Zack Snyder cut, it's like you completed your vision, however... whatever it is you managed to do it. Congrats on that. Yeah. Not many directors get a second try.
Well, these days I think they all do, and that's kind of a failing of the modern cinema system. But it's like, dude, if it's in the theater, it's over. Go on to the next project. This revisionist director's cut history thing makes me bonkers.
H. Bomber Guy did a really good video on that about, the myth and the truth of director's cuts.
Yeah.
Like Ridley Scott's Blade Runner director's cut wasn't cut by Ridley Scott.
Yeah.
Just that thing where it becomes a marketing tool, and sometimes a director can fix a movie, sometimes they can ruin a movie.
Yeah.
George Lucas!
Yeah. Or that director of Donnie Darko there. The director's cut of Donnie Darko is not anywhere near as good as the studio cut.
Yeah, it's weird when that happens.
But we get right now we get our favorite drunk guy from the previous minute, and he says, "What is this shit?"
This shit.
And I like that he doesn't say, "You gotta be shitting me" or something like that. Like I like, "What is this shit?" is a very natural sounding thing for him to say.
Yeah.
Nobody's like, "Damn" or whatever.
It's that part of the audience just there going, "Yeah, what the fuck,
What
man?
is happening?" Yeah. And and then all the cops sprint off. And they say there's no small parts. But this, Jean Claude Van Damme looking guy that raises his eyebrow in the foreground here as he runs off is just classic extra faux pas material. Like, it was like, dude, just...
Oh, I haven't noticed the Van Damme, but yeah, he's almost like he's Time Cop. It is Time Cop.
He raises his eyebrow and widens his eyes and is like, whoa. And it's like, dude, you're at a 10. I need you at a 6.
Yeah, it's a desk jockey because he's got a pen behind the ear.
Yeah. We get that shaky cam style thing now when they dash through the whitewashed corridors of the precinct. Now, I think, is this a different location? Because this looks like...
I think it might be, yeah. It looks industrial. Okay, so there's not many sets they were used, so they didn't construct too many sets, but they did use previous locations and dress it up.
Oh, good.
So this could actually be like an actual holding cell or a holding pen of some sort. Okay. But yeah, it feels weird to just have a holding pen in the middle of a room. It's very, what's his face? Dark Knight, with Heath Ledger and... yeah, it's one of those things where it's just like the main bad guy is separate from everyone else. There's a ring around him. Christopher Nolan, that's the word I'm looking for.
There you go. Yeah.
So, do we have any more notes for this minute?
They come up with the fence against the holding cell there, and they're calmly sitting RoboCop down and taking all the plastic off of the equipment. I feel for the officers here in some way because I think they're looking at... I think half of them are like, that's dope, that's cool. Half of them are like, what's going on, what's happening? And I think some of them are like, oh, so my job is finished then.
Yep.
I'm over. And I think as an animator for video games, which is my profession, like there are breakthroughs in procedural game creation like all the time, like facial tracking and motion capture that reduces the need for animators. So sometimes I feel like I'm watching parts of my own profession disappear. And it's like when I worked at a video store, and it's like these cops must be feeling the same way. They're like, okay, this is, version 1 of something that's going to end up making us redundant. And so I think there's a sense of wonder and a sense of being impressed, but also a sense of tension happening in this moment, which I like.
You're just noticing all the things we don't notice.
I just want to ask an actual animation question, because we are seeing definitely like this push towards mocap and stuff like that in regards to tracking movements and stuff like that, especially like after Lord of the Rings, King Kong, things like that, Andy Serkis, all that type of stuff. But it's always been my understanding that, especially in things like video games, where you can do motion track and stuff like that, but it's usually you still have to give it to an animator because part of animation is often you're exaggerating movements because it looks more realistic, or it's. So I'm imagining it's one of those things of like, how is that in recent times? Have you seen that they're now just trying to avoid using animators as much as possible in that sense of with mocap, or do you still have to do cleanup?
There's always this thing of Dr. Time and is constantly sucking time straw. Like you're gonna release on this date, and woe betide you if you don't. And I think there's like just a handful of companies that don't suffer from that. Like Rockstar's one. Like when you hear that it's been delayed by 6 months, you're like, take your time. Yeah. I know when it comes out, it's gonna be great. So thumbs up.
Yeah, but then you get EA.
And these other with the first sniff of like a delay, you're like, oh, it's garbage. Tons of behind the scenes drama. It's gonna suck. And then your value in the marketplace starts to dive. So you got to come out on the day. And
poor CD Projekt Red.
Yeah, well, there's this holy grail for producers, right? Like you got to, if we could just record and put it straight into the engine and then put it to market, that would be the best, and so they're always gunning for that, but it's never going to fully happen that way, because there's like in the movie Mad Max Fury Road, right? There's that big storm. Do you guys remember the storm in Fury Road? Do you remember that small little bit, the storm? And so there's all these war boys flying around in the storm, right? And there was animators needed to have them fly around in the storm, and the animators were researching people that were getting sucked up into actual tornadoes, like watching videos of people getting sucked up into actual tornadoes. And the thing about them is that they look like mannequins. They don't. They're not flailing their arms and flailing their legs and going, whoa. They just look like floppy ragdolls. So if you did them authentically, they would look fake.
Yeah.
Right? So you have to make them wheel around to make them look exciting.
We all know cinematically the most accurate tornado is from Man of Steel, where the tornado just wraps around Jonathan Kent and he doesn't
fine.
move at all.
It's a hug.
He's
one
fine.
of the
He's
lesser
fine.
known.
He's a friendly
the hug tornadoes.
I didn't realize just how much goes into a video game, and just it's basically just held together by sheer willpower and determination. There's a documentary from Santa Monica Studios who did God of War, and it was about them getting that game ready. And it was the sort of stuff I had never even thought about. Just, we deleted a tree here, and now the whole game doesn't work, so we have to put the tree in behind it. So we don't know why the tree destroyed the entire game, but
that's programming and coding.
There's a, what was it? If you do, low replication ability, but really high impact. That's the worst kind of bug to get.
So what does that mean?
You're like, when this happens, the game crashes. We can only get it to happen reliably 1 out of every 250 times we play the game. So we're not entirely sure what the problem is. But now we have to sit down and play it 1,000 times so we can get 4 crashes that we can record and try to figure out what went wrong.
This is why playtesting is insanely important.
And that's why people are like, I want to be a games tester. I want to play games. I'm like, no, you're going to play. By the time they become fun to play, they'll be out of your hands.
Yeah.
You're going to play broken games.
You'll never want to play it after that
15
point.
hours a day.
Yeah.
Anyway, but it's like somebody said, it's like building a plane during takeoff. Yeah. And I think that's a very good saying for both the movie business and video games.
Yeah, I studied game design at uni, and some of the stuff I've looked into and studied and stuff, it's just like, wow. People do not know even a tenth of the bullshit that goes on in game design to try and get it to work, let alone making it look pretty.
Every game you've ever played is held together with rubber bands and scotch tape and hope.
Yeah, pretty much. Oh, one day we're going to have to talk about the RoboCop game on the Commodore 64. Because that was a game that was legitimately broken on release, to the point where they had to add a physical block in the level, because if you actually exited the level and get into the next level after that, the game stopped working. They deliberately pooched the game on release, because they had to release it, and they couldn't fix it in time. And people have now hacked the ROM so you can get into the further parts of the game, and the game just goes to complete hell graphically and all sorts, because it was never completed. They couldn't fix this one problem.
I seem to have this fascination, not to go too off on tangent here, but just like game mysteries, hidden stuff that's been left behind, glitches.
Oh, what was that? Oh, there was a fantastic 2-hour-long video. Shoot. There was a specific video game.
Was it Polybius?
What?
Was it Polybius? The documentary?
Polybius, the game that doesn't exist.
No, I love that one. You told me about that one. It was great. No, it was there's a game where you can collect all the objects, but there was a rumored 15th object, and they thought it was off in some other part of the map.
Oh, you're talking about Donkey Kong 64?
No, was it Colossus?
I don't think it was
the Shadow of whatever it is that.
I don't think it was Shadows, but it spawned this whole community that's still happening today of people coming together, and I gotta find the video. I'm sorry, this is a dead.
Oh yeah, because Aggro. I was thinking about. I was trying to remember what the. No. Because I was like, I know the name of the horse, but I don't remember the name of the game. So Aggro was the name of the horse. Yeah, no, it is Shadow of Colossus. So Shadow of Colossus is one of those ones where there was I think a 15th relic, and no one knows if it's real or not. But there's just for 20 years, people have just been obsessing over it.
So the game Donkey Kong 64, which is a collectathon, there's things that were put in but then deleted, as game development goes. And one of the things that is a collectible is a thing called the rainbow coins, which are things on the ground which gives you coins to build stuff. They're not part of the collectathon score, but one got put in some tall grass.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
And it only got found a couple of years ago.
Yeah, H-Bomber Guy talked about it, I think.
Oh my god.
Yeah, the H-Bomber Guy's speedrunning video is amazing.
Yeah. My last note for this minute was that we see a chain link fence here dividing Murphy of RoboCop from other people, and when Lewis goes to his rescue, she is divided from him by a chain link fence, and I'm wondering if there's some sort of connection there.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah, I think Paul Verhoeven was going for the more literal divide the audience motif. And probably go a bit more on that in the next minute. But yeah, I like that repetition. That's brilliant.
I just did a little search here, Courtney, and you're dead right.
Yep.
That's what I was thinking.
Aha! Because I have seen all the YouTube videos, so...
Yeah, Colossus. Yeah, Shadow of the Colossus' last secret, and as the decade-long quest,
fascinating,
come together, and it's fascinating.
Oh wow!
So shall we gaslighting RoboCop?
Alex, how do you feel? I feel fine, Dr. Norton.
Yeah, I think we delayed the inevitable enough.
All right, so this video begins with Murphy waking up and ends with Dr. Norton saying, "Unlock the vertebrae." And my first note is Kim, the lab assistant, is wearing 9-inch heels to work. Who the hell does that? That's ridiculous heels.
Holy God.
Can't say I noticed. My brain was too busy going...
She must be like 4'10" or something, because she's not tall in this scene.
No.
Those heels are stilts.
So she just basically has to wear those so that she's not dwarfed by everybody, I guess.
She had to, this just to make the shot work, I think.
Yeah, maybe.
Could this lab be any more spacious?
I know. What are they? Is this normally for like for testing cars or something, like a wind tunnel? I don't know.
I have no idea.
And the hovering, like, I am a sucker for hovering in the air hologram.
Yeah.
Usually I can't get enough of them, but I have found that sometimes when they're not used correctly or when they're overused, I don't care.
Yeah.
And this is one of those instances.
For some reason, I'm okay with Iron Man and all his floating projections and stuff like that. He just makes... I mean, Robert Downey Jr. makes everything work. So, yeah, it just...
But they're also within his mask, so it's one of those things where it's a POV thing, and it's like him trying to organize his own mental processes, which I think is really interesting. But
yeah, the Minority Report screen, it's become... very overdone now.
I just don't know why Gary Oldman is like, unlock his vertebrae, unlock his top half, as Murphy here is getting more and more irate.
Yeah,
He's
why
like,
would you
my wife?
Restrict his movement?
Where is everybody? I have the strength of 19 semi-trucks and in my fist, and I'm starting to get pissed off. Quick, make him more mobile. Quick, unlock him. I'm like...
But you got to remember, it's in this movie, it's the lack of emotions that makes things move. And if he's got emotions, he can't move. And
isn't it funny that they got the most emotionless actor in a story about a man losing his emotions?
One thing that I think is really important about this scene is that I know that Murphy can't move because he says, "I can't move." That really helped clear it up for me.
I couldn't even come up with a funny line for this minute. I feel that's a failing on my part, but I'm just going to blame this movie.
I see what they're trying to do, and later on when they're in later minutes where he has all the cybernetics taken off and you see what's left of him, which I think is one of the best scenes in this film, and it is playing it for horror. There is a certain level of horror to the original scene, especially watching Murphy die. And then when he comes back, I don't think it quite sinks in that, this is Murphy, and he's lost everything. It's not quite registering in the same way, whereas in the remake, not saying the remake's better, Jesus Christ, no. But I think I get where they're going in terms of playing it for the claustrophobia. That's why he can't move. The claustrophobia, and then seeing what little is left of him. It is played for horror, and it's maybe the one thing it actually achieves what it sets out to achieve.
Yeah, there's like nothing left.
Do you know how you can show it cinematically? Tight close-ups. There's no tight close-ups. We don't get a feeling of claustrophobia because his world is very expansive in this big laboratory.
Oh, there's a word.
Cinematic language!
Oh, there is a word for that. The ludonarrative. Yeah, ludonarrative dissonance, where the camera's telling us one thing and the script is telling us another.
Or actually, it'd be cinematic dissonance. Ludonarrative is play.
Oh, yeah, it's a video game term. Right, yeah.
Yes.
But yeah, there is that dissonance there where, well, there's so much openness in these scenes. It's a big, wide open shot, but he's claustrophobic. Well, it's not quite... It's more claustrophobic watching Murphy die in the original.
Yeah.
And he's not saying, I can't move!
If this was done POV, it would actually probably be a little bit stronger, and we could have and actually extend out that reveal of his suit. But the fact that they just went, he's in a suit now, and it's like,
oh yeah, first person perspective would have been perfect here.
Fuck!
Why did they know? Oh my god!
Yes! Why am I a better filmmaker? I will say, though, I do like this design of the Robocop. This is my preferred design.
Yeah, I was about to say, I'm so glad we're finally here at the costume. As a costume designer, I can let my opinions out, finally. I think, it's beautifully designed, although my main thing, especially around the face, is that it looks like a man in a costume. It looks chunky. And yet, the original Robocop, it looks like skin stretched over metal. It's gruesome. And... my initial complaint when I first saw the film, or even just seeing the trailers, was just like, you could, with modern technology, do so much more. And obviously it fits a lot better and it moves a lot better, and it's a practical costume. That's great. Yeah. But you can strip back with CGI. So if you've seen Alita Battle Angel, it's amazing. The effects are just like, those cyborgs are missing parts. There's bits that are hollow. There's all this stuff that is not physically possible with a real costume, and they should have done that to enhance what was already there.
Yeah.
These costumes were built and designed by the Stan Winston, Legacy Effects, the old Stan Winston studios. So there's a pedigree behind all this, and I do think, on a technical level, they are really cool costumes. But and I think this one is the aesthetically better one. I like how they repeat some of the design elements from RoboCop, the striping on the chest piece on the top and the pecs, and it's a great homage. And then they went to this dull, a matte grey thing that looks like plastic. This looks like a Metal Man.
Yes, I love this. The silver is much, much better.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. It goes black later or dull, or I forgot about that.
Yeah, it's a different design as well. But again, keeping the mask having the mask retractable at will loses a lot of the effect of, because even if you had the mask on and it's going, I'm claustrophobic, again, would have added something to the scene, because we can see maybe when the mask is released, that is going to release the tension of his claustrophobia. But no.
A lot more you could have done with it. But just thinking about how iconic the original RoboCop suit is, it's one of those. It's like Darth Vader, where you don't even question it. That is, you can't imagine it any other way. That is RoboCop.
Yeah.
You can modernize it. You can streamline it, which is what they've done here, which I think would have been the smarter way.
The sensible choice. They didn't come up with some friggin' I don't know, Rodimus Prime looking shit. They could have done that. I don't know.
Oh shit! What are we gonna do now?
It's like, okay, it's like the difference between the 66 Connie in Star Trek. It's very iconic, these long shapes. And then the 2009 one where they went, we're just going to take this shrimp, but we're going to bulk it all out, make all these bigger, bulkier things. And
well, shit. That's exactly what I was hoping to spare you from.
Stylistically speaking, you lose all that sleekness, and then it's you've compressed the image, and they actually had troubles trying to shoot the 2009 Enterprise because there was less shots that made it look good compared to the original Enterprise. I wish I was joking. It's actually hard to shoot the JJ Prize than it is to shoot the original one from 60 years ago. Ha!
Looking at the opening, the first 10 seconds or so of this minute, I think that's maybe one of the few times where the cinematography is used to tell the story. There's something specific being said. But the rest of the minute is just a standard shot, reverse shot, conversation. Yeah. But yeah, first person would have been great.
I imagine it was one of those things where they're going, we don't want to rely too heavily on the original movie, so why are you making this?
Yeah, and I think one of the things is, like, with Alex, with Peter Weller's delivery, he has no inflection.
Yeah.
Right. So if we would have had this guy here, Joel Kinnaman, if his face was covered and you could only see his mouth and he was talking like a robot and he was like, I'm claustrophobic, I'm scared, it would have carried way more emotional weight.
Yeah, that's a bit chilling.
Right? Because he'd be saying, be like, this guy obviously wants to scream, but he's no longer been given the ability to do that. He can only talk in the monotone because that's all he's been given.
Yes.
But Gary Oldman, I don't even, is he the bad guy? Is he a good guy? I don't know from this scene.
He's kind of roped in to do bad things, but he doesn't want to.
But I don't know if...
Even the movie plays both sides with this character. The movie cannot decide if Norton is a good guy doing bad things or he's got his own personal... The movie itself cannot decide that.
Yeah, so in this scene, Gary Oldman and Joel Kinnaman are talking to each other in the exact same tone of voice, and there's no there's no seesaw, there's no one person on one side, another person on another. It's just they're just a couple of dudes having a conversation, and even his like I'm claustrophobic and I'm scared comes across like he's about to mildly lose control. It looks like he might.
Oh yeah.
He's getting a little worked up. And I'm like, can you both act, please? Like, I don't know.
It's the person that says, hold me back, and then looks to his mates to grab him while he's... hold me back, someone hold me back. Why isn't anyone holding me back?
Yeah, like, I need Joel Kinnaman to be losing his goddamn mind here, or they need them to go, 100% in the other direction and have him be too, like, restrained...
No middle
one tier, but he's talking like everything's fine. That kind of stuff it would have been more effective in this scene. This is I
would have loved to see. That's some spooky shit.
Oh, what a bummer of a reveal this is. This is such a bummer of a reveal. But like you said, the suit's actually a pretty good design.
Yeah, it looks good. They got the job done, at least.
Yeah.
One of our mission statements, especially when it comes to the remake, is we've got to call out the good as much as we're going to call out the bad.
Yeah, you have to. It's good. It's no fun to just rag on something. You got to acknowledge the stuff that worked.
Yeah.
Oh, yes! But, it's weird to say that, you're looking at a movie and go, we can just that tiniest little bit of a touch, and it can greatly improve something. And this is where people who are not making movies, we're not part of the Hollywood machine, and if we can figure this stuff out, you have to wonder what went on. Just like these are like the tiniest of notes.
Yeah, it's the kind of stuff that makes you go, "Did you see the first one?" You might have seen it. Did you get it?
Yeah. Oh God. Yes.
So many remakes and sequels don't get what they're actually making.
Yeah.
I'm looking at the action figures for the RoboCop remake, and I'm going, like the higher end Playouts Kai looking ones and stuff. That I wouldn't mind having that on my shelf. It's a good looking design, except for the hand.
Sure.
Just paint the hand.
I'll just paint the hand. Lose the arm.
But it is nice seeing them side by side, the original RoboCop and the new one, where it is much more streamlined. They've elongated the torso somehow. It's very handsome. It's just, it's in this movie, and then they paint it black. And so, should we wrap this up before we go on even longer?
Yeah. Thanks once again, Duncan, for joining us on this minute, and please plug yo shit.
Check me out on Chronologically Speaking or the Time Bandits Minute. If you want to listen to me, I'm on Spotify, I'm on Apple, I'm on Breaker, I'm on everything. Just put in Chronologically Speaking and see if you can find that podcast there for a movie-by-minute breakdown of Tron. If you're into that sort of thing. I love that form of long-form podcast.
Yeah.
And, I guest on a lot of other movie-by-minute podcasts, so just...
you'll be on Covenant soon.
Yep. And go to Buy Duncan Shields, byduncanshields.com, and there's my book and other projects. And
the book's very good, Small Windows.
Thank you.
Oh, what genre is it? Is it a...
There's one about someone who's banned from using a replicator, and it's the funniest shit.
Oh, yeah. I'd probably get into so much trouble if I was ever had unlimited access to Federation technology.
nobody has any imagination with those things. Like
exactly.
So it can make anything you say. Well, challenge accepted. Like
everyone in the friggin' Star Trek universe is goddamn Boy Scout, following the rules. Pfft.
Courtney?
You can find me at traviandesigns.com, TRAVAN, and on patreon.com/traviandesigns. So I've got, all my podcasts by now, and I also don't promote my frickin' YouTube channel enough, so that's just Courtney Colson. You can hear me talk about detransitioning and all of that.
And you can find me on Fandom Crossing, where I do the Kung Pao Enter the Minute. That's available on YouTube. This is available on YouTube, and also for the people that don't like images in their audios, there is Spotify, Simplecast, Apple, Google, all that shit. Please rate, review, subscribe, click buttons, like, all those kind of things, comments, algorithms. We're talking robots, so we gotta feed the algorithm beast.
Give us the validation our parents never gave us.
Exactly, that's exactly it. And speaking of parents, until next time,
Robocock.
What the fuck am I doing? What a fucking segue.
That's how babies are made, through Robococks.